All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 5:30. I will go ahead and open this meeting of the Torrington City Council. This is Tuesday, March 17, 2026. Good evening and welcome to all. We have here with us this evening Ryan Caith from KGOS, KERM Radio. This meeting is being broadcast live on both local radio stations and also on YouTube, and it will be up permanently on YouTube. We also have from the Torrington Telegram, Phoenix Barons, so welcome to the press. Our first order of business is the pledge, and I've asked Councilman Kelly to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda are the mayor's informational items. If you've lived here long enough, you know that we are in for several more weeks of potential winter-like weather. This is the case even though the first day of spring is this Friday, March 20th. The city provides many opportunities for recreational activity for our citizens and visitors to our city. We have acres of city parks, camping opportunities, baseball, softball, and soccer fields, a first-class public golf course, and a walking path that extends across the entire breadth of the city. We also have a municipal swimming pool that is open from late spring to the end of the summer season. City workers are already busy preparing for the upcoming spring and summer seasons. We have smart, hardworking, trained, and dedicated employees who are now busy preparing and will be kept busy for months maintaining all these fields and facilities. It takes all the city workers, part-time seasonal employees included, to make this system work. All are involved. I want to thank all the department heads and all the employees that make this work for the benefit of all. The Director of Public Works / City Engineer, the City Clerk Treasurer, Chief of Police, the City Attorney, the City Court Judge, the Fire Chief, the Emergency Medical Services Director, the Pool Manager, the Museum Director, the Golf Pro Manager, Streets and Sanitation Department, Water Wastewater Department, Electrical Department, Airport Personnel, Buildings and Grounds, the Mechanic Shop, the Purchasing Department, the Utility Department, the Communications and 911 personnel, the Cemetery personnel, and the administrative staff that works in the front office. I hope I have not left anyone out. I also thank my fellow council members who are tasked with monitoring all of this and who are responsible for the health, safety, and welfare of all our residents and visitors. So thank you to all who work to make this city work. And blessings to all for a safe, fun, and enjoyable spring and summer season. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from the March 3rd, 26 council meeting as published.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move to approve the consent agenda.
All right, I have a motion from Councilman Deal to approve the consent agenda as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, the consent agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda itself.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the agenda as presented.
I have a motion from Councilman Victron to approve the agenda as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approval of the agenda as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, the agenda is approved. Next item is what we call the public forum. I don't see any takers for that this evening. If there were takers, I would see a form in that black box in front of Councilman Warren. But I do like to take time to explain this section on our agenda. This section is for non-agenda items, and there is a time limit of 2 minutes, and the speaker must sign up before the meeting. This is a time for the council to listen. No action will be taken. So in the future, if you're interested in that, you may fill out the form and sign up for this public forum. We are now under the action items, and our first action item this evening is audited financial statements for FY25. Paul Steele from Leo Riley and Company. Welcome, Paul.
So, appreciate your time to go through this a little bit. Like I have proceeded in the past, is that going to be sufficient on that, Mayor?
I think so. I think
Okay. All right, I'll just briefly go through a few things, and then I highlighted some things within the document that I sent out that I was just going to cover on that, if everybody, that I think are some things that I'd like to go into a little further detail for.
And before you start, we appreciate your driving down from Casper to
Oh, yeah,
present to us. Thank you.
It's going to be worse going back, though, that I'm going to be driving into one, so. So I'm going to start with the communication. I think all of you have went through that with me in the past, so I'm not going to go through all that again. I'm going to go down, though, to the second paragraph there. In the middle of that, we reference a change in accounting policies required by GASB, how that's to be valued, changing out from payout value to earned value or taken value. So that means we had to put a dollar amount on the sick leave on that. It increased, added about $1 million, $1.1 million liabilities into the balance sheet, it's just an accounting entry on our end to include in the financial statements. It's not going to change that day-to-day operations. It's not going to change how the vacation and sick pay are paid out. It just changes how those are valued when that goes into the financial statements. Kind of goes back to the same premise of the pension liability that I've talked with you about in the past. It's just a dollar value put on this estimated amount, but it really doesn't affect the operations of the city or the budgeting or anything like that of the city. So it's just kind of a change within the financial statements only. Any questions on that? So they seem to want to keep putting these liabilities into the financial statements of GASB, the Government Accounting Standards Board. Because 10, 12 years ago, we had to put the pension liability into the financial statements, and now we're including changing how we're valuing this paid out leave on that. So it did add, so it didn't all run through the profit and loss in 24, 25. We had to go back and restate the end of 23, 24 fiscal year and then compute the change. So we had to value that at the end of 24 year and then again at the end of 25 year. So we had to go back and restate the balance coming into this year on the financial statements. I'm going to go ahead and turn, first of all, to the table of contents, just kind of reminder here. There at the bottom, of course, we have all the financial statements at the top. At the bottom, I highlighted there in green the compliance and internal control reports that we have to issue for a governmental entity within the state of Wyoming. We have our independent auditor's report on control, on internal control and compliance. As I've explained in the past, I only have to audit compliance that I feel is material to the financial statements. So that's going to be primarily things like treasury functions, budgeting functions, disbursement functions, things like that. So I mean, I know there's a lot of other things that the city needs to comply with, but I'm not responsible for that on that. And then the second item there, we have to issue a report on internal control over just the federal items. So as I've explained in the past, once we hit the $750,000 in federal expenditures, that throws us into the federal audit. And then we were required to perform specific tests on various grants that the city's received on that. So this year we did of course, the big sewer project that's sewer lagoons still going on, and then also the airport project that was going on during the year. That threshold is going to be increased to $1 million. I don't think it's going to make much difference in the city's operations because you're well over that. And I think it's going to be well over that again in 24, 25, 26. So on that, or 26, 27. So on that. So you're going to be well over the amounts on that. Okay, I'm going to flip ahead. Page 4. And I just highlighted here in the balance sheet, this is the full accrual. So we have everything, all resources, the spendable and non-spendable resources. So that's going to include the fixed assets and the long-term debt. And I just highlighted there in yellow where that sick leave is going to run through on that. So that ran through that account. If you turn the page, this is going to be the statement of activities, and this is on full accrual, so that includes depreciation and all resources spendable and non-spendable. I highlighted in there the grants. We had the grants for the project going through the city. The airport is there under the transportation. The water is there's various projects under the water fund. And then under the sewer, that's the sewer project going on. That essentially creates a profit in those funds because the grants are going into revenue. The receipt of the funds are going into revenue, but the assets they're buying goes into a fixed asset, a capital asset. So the items acquired are ending up in the balance sheet, but the revenue received is running through the profit and loss on that. So when we go through, Lynette and I were looking at this before, a lot on the sewer and the water and a lot of these, they were just about break even. But when you put those grants in there, it creates a profit for those. And I'll show that here in a little bit. Why don't we go ahead to that? Turn to page 11. And I highlighted the amounts of grants that ran through each of the funds there. And as you can see, just about, if the grants weren't in there, the water fund would have been only positive $200,000. The sewer fund would have been negative 205 to 128, so negative about $80,000. So I mean, that creates profit in there, but that money has been spent. It's just how the bookkeeping is done on that. So it would be break even without that. On page 20. This is what I was referring to before, the new accounting pronouncements. So we had to run that change through all the funds. We had to allocate it to the general fund, the water, sewer, electric, sanitation, and ambulance fund. So all funds participate in that change in accounting principles. And I'm going to come ahead. Talked about the federal awards. So I'm going to hop ahead to 46 here. And so the airport improvement grant is what we audited with the federal requirements. And then we also audited the water sewer, the sewer projects and the well water project that's under the ARPA funds. Those are the federal awards that we audited under the federal guidelines. And that gives us enough coverage. We have to meet specific coverage amounts. And then on the bottom there, I highlighted the two the two grants that are going to the D Street project. Those will probably be what we're going to end up being the major programs in 25, 26. Last, I was going to cover, if we turn to the findings on 54. And this is the separation of duties. Lynette and I were just talking about this, maybe tweaking a little bit of the, how the workloads allocated to maybe, so that we could maybe eliminate this for next year on that, just changing the duties around a little bit, and I think that'll take care of that. And that's. I want to thank Lynette and all her staff. They're great to work with. They've been coming up here for quite a while doing the city audit, I think since the late 90s. I don't know if anybody's got any questions tonight.
I would have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Victorin.
Thank you, Paul, for
Yeah.
coming. On that, that deficiency, would you recommend some sort of written procedure of separation of duties in that regard?
Well,
Or do you simply need an understanding of the
well, I mean, I
separation?
have to document, I think if we just switch maybe the duties around just a little bit, so the place where we're getting kind of hung up is the month-end balancing on things, because that kind of encompasses a lot of different areas, because that's encompassing the receipting, the disbursements, the payroll, and things like that. And so I think if we could get that maybe moved, we talked about maybe moving that to another person and changing the accounts payable a little bit, operations. I think we would eliminate that. We always have higher issues at remote locations, collections at remote locations. You know, because a lot of times there's a lot of cash and things moving through the pool or the golf course or things like that. So that's always usually a little higher risk also, but that's going to be at any place that there's cash collected, because if it's not in the books, nobody knows was ever there. We've had some instances where the management's changed at some entities, and all of a sudden the collections go up on that, so you wonder kind of what was going on beforehand. But I mean, it's impossible to audit that unless you have, I don't know, security cameras there or something, or somebody sitting there watching everything that comes across the counter, and that's not really cost efficient. Did that cover your?
More or less, I think.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry, no, but, okay.
Well, but I appreciate you and Lynette visited about this.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
way, so next year, we don't have this
Yeah.
deficiency.
Right, that
Yeah.
deficiency's been there for,
Yeah, for quite a while.
It's an annual thing.
Yeah, yeah, so it's not uncommon for other entities on that, that we include that in the report. And the state's fairly common.
Okay. Gentlemen, any more questions for Paul?
Does this report just come to us, or does it go to the Department of Audit? for
So,
the state?
yeah, we've got a couple things to do here. We've got to, we'll send it to the Department of Audit, and then I think they disseminate it. I think Lynette needs to send it to DOT or some other places. And then we also need to submit it to the federal government on their database. So we've got to upload it, and they've got some questions that they want us to answer about the audit. And then, so we have to identify the federal awards. We have to load the federal awards into their database, and that way they can compute statistics and track their money based upon the number assigned, the CFDA number that's assigned to that program at this federal level. So we've got to upload that and transmit that to the federal government too.
Okay. So for the layman listening, we're pretty squared away, right?
Yeah, we're good. So, okay, we're good. So,
Appreciate that,
thank
Paul.
you. Thanks for your time, everybody.
you, sir.
Thank you. Okay.
Lynette, did you have anything to add?
no?
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
No, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Gentlemen, I would entertain a motion to accept the audited financial statements for FY '25 as presented.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make the motion to approve or to accept the audited financial statements for fiscal year '25.
All right, have a motion from Councilman Deal, item number 1, to accept the audited financial statements for FY '25. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for vote. Item 1, all those in favor of accepting the audited financial statements for FY '25 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, those financial statements, audited financial statements are accepted. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item number 2, ordinance on third reading relating to roofing permit fees. And Mr. Eddington, if you would please read that ordinance by title.
It's an ordinance amending and reenacting section 5.26.040 of the Torrington Municipal Code 2026 revisions relating to roofing permit fees.
Thank you, Mr. Eddington. And Mr. Estes?
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, this is a third reading. I think you've been through it. I missed the last meeting, so you might have to fill me in a little bit. But I've had no input from the public, no input from the contractors. So if everybody understands, we just move forward. But if not, I'd explain it again.
Do you have any questions?
No
Mr.
questions, Mr. Mayor, just kind of a recap. What we did last time was a little bit more clarification on the contractor's license and then the version of the code that we are referencing.
Correct.
And I think we all got to where we understood that, because it's a bit confusing when you are talking about commercial permits, but you're looking for the fee schedule in the International Residential Code.
So-
That's a bit confusing.
Just to explain that real quick, it is confusing. In the body of the international codes, I have several copies of the code. I got a residential code, I got a commercial code, I got a plumbing code, I got a fuel gas code, I got a maintenance code, I got HVAC code. All those are separate different books. For whatever reason, in the international system, they put the fee schedule in the residential code. They didn't put it anywhere else. So if a body's going to adopt it, it has to be adopted out of Appendix L of the residential code. That is confusing, but residential code handles 1 and 2 family dwellings. Anything I do on a home, I do in that book. Anything other than that goes to the commercial book.
Except for the fee schedule.
I don't know why they do it. That's the only place they put the fee schedule. This body adopted it like many do,
Okay.
and that's where the fee schedule is.
And there were changes on the first reading and on second reading, but I think that between Lynette and Sylvia and Mr. Eddington, I think the appropriate changes council was looking for got put in there.
Now, the items marked in green, is that what we added or took away?
That's the second,
That's second
That's the
reading.
second.
dates, if
Last
you will.
meeting, yeah.
Yellow was the first, I believe.
Okay, now down the next line down, there's, the permit has a line drawn through it. Is that to be eliminated?
In A.
Yes. A general
Change
roofing
it to
contractor's
license.
license.
We're going to delete the word permit? Okay.
And there's only a couple things that I do different out of that fee schedule is fence permits and roofing permits. And I kind of explained it in the staff meeting this morning. When we're doing 4,000 roofs on a hail damage call, and you got one employee, and you got many roofers calling me all the time saying, hey, I got XYZ roof, what's it going to cost me for a permit? Instead of having to go through this fee structure, I'd have to beat my desk, for one. I'd have to go back to the fee schedule and say, hey, you need to pay XYZ. On a residential home, when a contractor goes up to that home, especially on a hail damage event, they can just add to their estimate $150 now if that passes, $150 to that fee. They'll know that unless it's
a
commercial.
set fee, and it's double the old fee of
Correct,
75.
correct. The other one is the fence permits. It's just easy for residences when they want to get a new fence or whatever, we just charge $30 flat fee.
Since you're talking about damaged roofs, from the last storm, do the contractors that repair these roofs, are they gonna have to be the permit?
It depends on how much. Sometimes they can just get away with shingles, but we have a couple large commercial buildings that lost their whole roof. In our last event, about a month ago, Blowhorn lost a roof, so they will have to get a permit.
But there's a bunch of them from the last week, especially down West C Street that lost roof
A lot
shingles.
of shingles on the ground, yeah. So I don't know, if the roofers come to me, if I see them up on the roof, we stop and talk to them. And
Would it depend on how many shingles they have to replace or anything?
generally, we don't allow, unless it's a real minor repair, we don't allow partial replacement or slope replacement, because it just has problems with the roof when you put one slope on and not the other. I mean, they have a problem with getting them sealed, they're not the same shingle. There's a lot of things that can go wrong when you start covering roofs up.
But even if the homeowner's insurance only pay for part of that, they still only get partial roof?
We don't do partial roofs here very
I mean,
seldom.
they have to do the whole roof?
They have to do the whole roof generally, unless it's some circumstance where they can get away with that. Very small circumstance. We usually don't have 100-mile-an-hour winds either, so you think you got everything figured out, and then you don't. So,
And you've had no comment from the public, negative or positive?
I've had no comment either way. The only comment is the local roofer is concerned about our dump fees.
Which
Since
has
we raised
nothing to do with this ordinance.
Correct.
All right, if there are no further questions for either Mr. Eddington or Mr. Estes, I would entertain a motion. Item number 2, to pass this ordinance on third reading.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the ordinance on third reading.
All right, I have a motion from Councilman Victron in item number 2 to approve the ordinance on third reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Warren. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Item number 2, all those in favor of approving this ordinance on third reading as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that ordinance is approved on third reading. Thank you. All right. Item number 3 on our agenda is Emergency Medical Services EMS charges, and staff reference is Darren Yates, the EMS Executive Director. Thank you, Darren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, attached to your agendas is our current fee schedule and the changes that I'm proposing to make. Not a lot of them, but let me go through those and I'll entertain any questions. The BLS rate, which is basic life support, currently is $700. I'm proposing that to go to $800. The ALS rate, which is advanced life support, increasing that by $100 to $950. ALS assist would be $950. That's when we go assist other agencies in Goshen County. And then we have our specialty care transfer, which is currently $1,100. I'm proposing that to go to $1,300. That is when we have to have like a nurse on board or even a physician on board. Sometimes they do ride with us. ALS cardiac arrest is increased by $200 to $1,300. We do a lot of stuff for cardiac arrests. And then current mileage, we charge $16 a mile. I'm proposing that go to $18. That is loaded miles. We cannot charge if the patient is not on that ambulance. And then the last 2 is our standby fees. So if we have an ambulance, a dedicated ambulance, and two staff, currently we charge $75 an hour. I'm proposing to change that to $100 an hour. To me, that's still pretty cheap when you have an ambulance that's dedicated to your event. Sometimes we are asked to do personnel only if they just need an EMT out there. So currently we charge $45, and I'm proposing that to go to $50. And that is basically the changes I'm proposing, so I'll answer any questions you guys have.
And on the second page, Darren, all those just stay the same?
They will stay the same. So about 95% of our insurances right now will only pay a base rate mileage. We cannot itemize anymore. Some insurances, motor vehicle insurances, we can itemize, so we keep those on there in the event that we can separate everything out.
Okay, gentlemen, do you have any questions for Darren?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Darren, on those basic life support and advanced life support, are those per event,
Per call, yes.
per call?
Yep.
And then, can you help the council understand what the legislature did with the Medicaid
Yeah,
rate?
yeah, we discussed that in the staff meeting today. So Senate File 4 was something that the EMS directors across the state came together and said, look, you've got to do something with Medicaid. Medicaid or Title 19 is the assistance that some people are on. They were reimbursing us about 66% of what Medicare was paying us. We had not had an increase in Medicaid rates for about 16 years. So we pushed for that. We got some legislation that actually passed, which we were kind of shocked. Governor signed it. And so as of July 1, they'll be paying us 100% of the Medicare rates.
For
And that-
Medicaid patients?
For Medicaid patients, yep.
It basically equals them out.
Yes. But that is huge for ground ambulance services in the state of Wyoming. I think it sunsets the end of 28, I think, so they'll have to repass it, but yeah, a lot of us push for that, a lot of time in Cheyenne for that.
Say that again. So a group of you went down to Cheyenne and testified in front of
There's a lot of
committees?
people that push for it because we just have complained and complained and complained that we don't make enough money for Medicaid patients. You know, right now, Medicaid, out of a base rate of $700, they reimburse us $250. And the rest is a write-off. We cannot legally bill those patients. And like I said, it's been, I think, 16 years since they've raised that. So it was long overdue. But we got it, so that was huge for us.
It seems like it makes it much easier to administer if you just get the same rate that the Medicare payment is.
You would think.
Okay. All right, thank you for asking that question. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, but thanks for reminding me. These have not been changed since October of 22, so we're about 3.5 years. So, and I would like these to go into effect April 1. It's just easier on accounting.
All right. Gentlemen, any more questions for Darren? All right. Item number 3, emergency medical services EMS charges. I would entertain a motion to approve those to take effect April 1.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the emergency medical service charges, the changes to the effective date of April 1.
All right. I have a motion from Councilman Victorin to approve the emergency medical services EMS charges effective April 1, 2026. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. Item 3, all those in favor of approving the emergency medical services EMS charges to be effective April 1, 2026, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, those are approved as of April 1, 2026.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Darren. Appreciate it. All right, we are now on item number 4. FY '22 Torrington Well number 16, connection amendment number 2 to the agreement for professional services with AVI Professional Corporation. Staff recommends approval of amendment number 2 to extend the original agreement with AVI to December 31 of '26 and to establish a new budget amount of $93,070 for the construction administration and inspection, project closeout, and record drawings. And I would call on Director of Public Works Harkins.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Actually, my description is going to cover both items 4 and 5 together, since it's basically the same project. As you stated, the first part of this is the engineering part with AVI. So we're recommending approving amendment number 2, which will basically add $6,000 to the current agreement for professional services with AVI. The agreement for professional services was established on June 22nd, 2021. to provide the design bidding services and contract administration in the amount of $86,820. And this was for the construction of the new well house, well pump and motor, and all required piping to connect well 16 to the city's distribution system. Amendment number 1 to the original agreement was issued January 5th, 2023, in the amount of $250 for engineering work that was performed by a subconsultant, Hickley Consulting Services. And this project was substantially complete on February 25th, 2026. The additional work requested by AVI is for the continued contract administration and inspection for the proposed generator installation, which would be item number 5 with Goshen County Construction. So January of this year, Chuck Kenyon informed us that the city had received a grant from the Department of Homeland Security for the purchase and installation of a generator for well 16. As a result, we contacted Wyoming Water Development Office requesting to keep the current contract open with Goshen County Construction so that we could issue a change order and have the contractor purchase and install the generator. Wyoming Water Development Office had no issues with our proposal since we were funding the change order outside of our agreement with the Wyoming Water Development Office. Currently, we're waiting for the grant paperwork to be issued out of the State Attorney General's office. I checked with Chuck today, and we still do not have that. It may be a while due to some changing of the Office of Homeland Security to now the Department of Homeland Security within the state. So once we receive that, we'll issue the change order to the contract. The generator pad, conduit, and transfer switch were already installed as part of the well 16 contract in anticipation of a future generator install. As you can see on the project cost funding for engineering, the additional $6,000 will bring the total to $93,070. Of that, $87,069.10 has been spent. The construction, the original contract amount was $2,586,560. Because that was over our budget at that time, we negotiated with Goshen County Construction, took out some things. One of the things that was eliminated from the contract was the diesel generator. Through the various items that were taken out of the contract, we reduced the contract amount $239,938. There are a couple other change orders that were added during the construction phase. And the pending change order number 4 for $205,526 is for that generator install. The total project cost, including the generator install, is going to be $2,592,524 and change. Of that, the total spent to date is $2,386,998 and change. So basically, everything has been completed, but regarding the well house, pump, motor, the RO unit, the only thing remaining will be the diesel generator purchase and install. The next page shows the various amounts of funding that we secured to go forward with this project. As you can see, it's been quite an elaborate amount of different types and areas of funding. With that, if you have any questions, I'd be willing to answer.
Basically, this proposal is to increase the engineering by $6,000.
Correct.
And then the change order would authorize the grant award.
Correct.
And Mr. Harkins, this would be the end of the ARPA funds then?
I believe so. I think we fully expended all of our ARPA money on all the different projects.
And the $205,000, is that for the generator and the installation?
The purchase and installation of the generator.
Was that like a bid price, or where'd that figure come from?
The original bid price for that was $194,500, but that was several,
Months ago?
well, I'm gonna almost want to say several years ago. But, so Goshen County Construction has given us the original contract bid price for that and increased it, I think it was about 11,000, which is less than 10%.
And just back up to the global look at it, like Councilman Victor elicited from you. We're only adding $6,000
Correct?
on one to finish this thing out. And then that $205,526 is paid by a grant that Chuck Kenyon was able to get us with Homeland Security.
That's correct.
And that, go ahead.
Every year we have a contract, that somebody comes around and checks all the generators that we've got already to make sure they work overtime. Is this generator going to be included in that?
I would imagine that all the generators would be included.
I mean, it's the same brand and everything as all the rest of them.
What we're requesting is a Cummins, and I think that's what the contractor is going to be going in purchasing. So it would be basically the same as what we have throughout the city.
And I'm getting a thumbs up affirmation from Tom Troxel back there as to what was just said. He's in agreement.
Would you, Director, would you have an idea as a percentage of this entire project, how much was grant award?
Oh, boy.
Well more than half, wouldn't you say?
It's 1 million, 1.4, about 1.6 plus now the new grant, about 1.8 million.
Considerable amount of that was
Yeah,
grant
considerable.
award.
All right, any further questions for Mr. Harkins? And I do agree with you, Jeff. You've explained both what's in item 4 and item 5, but I think it might be easier to keep track of if we just take a vote on item 4 and then move on to take a vote on item 5.
Correct, yeah, that would be correct.
Okay, so if there aren't any further questions for Mr. Harkins, I'm talking about item number 4. I would entertain a motion to approve the FY22 Torrington Well Number 16 Connection Amendment Number 2 to the agreement for professional services with AVI Professional Corporation as set forth there.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to be a little more brief. I would make a motion to approve amendment number 2 to the agreement for the professional services with AVI.
All right.
That's sufficient, sir?
I believe that's sufficient, if I can repeat it. Item number 4, I have a motion from Councilman Deal to approve the amendment number 2 to the professional services agreement with AVI Professional Corporation. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Item number 4, all those in favor of approving amendment number 2 to the agreement for professional services with AVI Professional Corporation, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. All right, that is approved, amendment number 2, and set forth in item 4. All right, we are now on item number 5, the change order number 4 with Goshen County Construction. And I would entertain a motion to approve that change order number 4 with Goshen County Construction.
Should this also be a motion to accept the grant too, Mr. Mayor?
No.
We've already made
I
that.
believe the grant was accepted previously.
Yeah.
But may I say this? I should probably have a motion that, to approve change order number 2 and authorize the mayor and the clerk to sign the change order.
No, amendment number 2 was where you would, you and the clerk treasurer, Lynette, would sign that one. The change order usually gets signed by myself and the contractor and the engineer.
Okay, so all we need is a motion to approve
Correct.
Order number 4.
change order number 4. And I don't remember if I have that motion or not. No. No, okay. I would entertain that motion.
I would so move, Mr. Mayor.
All right, I have a motion in item number 5 from Councilman Victrin to approve change order number 4 with Goshen County Construction. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Warren. Any further discussion? I'll call for a vote. Item number 5, all those in favor of approving change order number 4 with Goshen County Construction, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that change order is approved. All right, we're now on the second page of the agenda. Item number 6, award request for proposal FY26 water service line material evaluation. Staff recommends awarding the project to Stealth Underground LLC of Gering, Nebraska in the amount of $294,775 and a reserve of $25,225, which is 8.6%, for contingency for a project total of $320,000. And with that, I'd call on Director Harkins.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The city, under an EPA mandate, must complete an inventory of all unknown water service lines within the distribution system. Currently, the city has 661 addresses consisting of 907 service lines with unknown pipe material that need inventoried. The selected consultant will pothole and inventory these specific locations, take photos of the service lines, and also input that data into a Survey 123 type format for the city's water department to complete their inventory of all city city service lines. This request for proposal was advertised on February 25th, 2026, and proposals from consultants were due March 11th by 2 p.m. 2 proposals were submitted with the results shown below. Stealth Underground was the low bid, $294,775. The contractor will be given 180 days to complete the project after an agreement for professional services has been executed with the consultant. Project cost funding, we have a drinking water SRF loan in the amount of $650,000 for this project. The terms for that project are a 20-year term at 0% interest with 75% principal forgiveness. So since we are not going to be using the full $650,000 because the bids came, well, the one bid proposal came in way under that. If you want to break that down to a monthly cost, it appears that the monthly cost will be about $307 a month for the project. With that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Councilman Victor.
I have a question. I have a few questions on the project itself. The proposed contractor, they will identify the curb stops and everything themselves. They won't require city forces to do that for them ahead of time, will they?
No, there's a complete listing. If you look a little bit further past, at the end of the RFP, there's a spreadsheet of all unknown locations and the addresses.
I'm meaning like within the property itself.
Most of the curb stops are either located in the sidewalk or just behind the sidewalk. If they did have some issue trying to find one, they could contact the water department. I'm sure they would be able to help them.
And then the second question is about, are all of these identifications able to be performed visually? They can identify the material visually? There's no other further testing required? Material testing?
We're assuming that, yes, it's going to be a visual inspection and identification.
And these are, in a way, leftovers. I know the city itself has looked, and they have never seen lead pipe
Correct.
connections in the city. So it sounds like in the city decades ago, lead pipe was not used, and that was good foresight on the part of somebody, right?
Correct.
And I think at staff meeting, we're talking about back east. I think in the eastern half of the country, a lot of water systems were lead pipe, but not here so much. Haven't found any yet, and don't expect to find any, frankly. But I wanted to say this, too, because we discussed this at staff meeting. This is an EPA requirement. It's what people hear, you know, non-funded mandates that EPA is requiring. It's kind of looks like EPA, this rule or statute or both, is a one-size-fits-all from the federal government, whether it's really necessary here or not. But we have to do it and stay in compliance with our water system with the EPA.
That's correct.
Okay, that was a leading question. Okay. All right.
Could you describe the procedure for pothole?
Usually what they'll do is they'll use like a Vector truck like what we have, but they may use a smaller version of that. They will, you know, the Vector truck will basically shoot water and suck it out at the same time. It'll remove the dirt and material down to the service line to the point where they, you know, can have visual confirmation of what the material is. And then they'll come back and they'll fill it back up with some of the visionary people have been using pea gravel instead of dirt. When they complete their stuff, it seems to pack and take up the space better without settlement for, you know, future settlement. But I do suspect that people, when they see holes being dug either in their yard or in their sidewalk, we will probably get some phone calls.
Now, when they do this, if by chance a leakage situation occurs after they've done this, I've read through the contract, I don't see who's responsible for fixing that
If there's a leak,
after they get through with the pothole.
the potholing process shouldn't cause any leaks.
If it's got an old copper line there or something, that wouldn't be,
Well, it depends on which side of the curb stop it is. If it's on the city side of the curb stop, the city would be responsible for the repair. And if it's on the customer side, customer technically would be responsible for the repair unless the damage was caused by our contractor, in which case we would be responsible
But
for
isn't
the
this-
repair.
whole study designed to see if the connection from the curb stop to the homeowner's house?
Not the connection, it's just to identify the service line material.
The service line coming from the city or from the,
Either side. We have some locations with both sides, and we have other locations where the city side is unknown, and we have other locations where just the customer side is unknown.
okay.
So the site address will determine which side of the curb stop they pothole.
Yeah, there's both, if you look at that spreadsheet, it says city side, customer side, and if it says unknown on both sides, they got to do both sides of the curb stop to determine what the service line materials are. If one is known and the other is unknown, then you only have to do one pothole at that location.
Well, and then the project is not gonna require the $650,000. Are we still applying for that amount of loan?
We've already been basically granted that loan based on an estimate that we had prior to issuing the RFP. I mean, we talked to some contractors to get an estimate of what it would cost. And as you can see, one of the contractors was very close to the estimate that we had, which was $650,000. They bid $600,000. We were just, I guess, fortunate enough to have a contractor that only wanted to bid almost, well, it was about $300,000.
Was there any reason for the big discrepancy that you know of?
I can't explain it, no. I think both companies are fully capable of doing the job, and it's just a matter of, I guess, how hungry each one was.
Well, Stealth was out of Gearing. Where was Badger out of?
Cheyenne?
That's all I got.
All right. All right, we are on item number 6. Any further questions for Mr. Harkins? All right, item number 6, I would entertain a motion to approve or award the request for proposal FY26 water service line material evaluation as set forth in item 6.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move to approve the staff recommendation of awarding the fiscal year 26 water service line material evaluation to Stealth Underground LLC of Gearing, Nebraska.
All right, I have a motion from Councilman Deal to approve the award for request for proposal FY26 water service line material evaluation to Stealth Underground LLC of Gearing, Nebraska in the amount of $320,000. Well, that's including the reserve. So $294,775 with a contingent of $25,225. Did I state that appropriately, Councilman Deal?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, there's the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Victorin. All right. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the request for proposal, FY26 water service line material evaluation that staff recommends to Stealth Underground LLC of Gearing in the amount of $294,775 with a reserve of $25,225, which is 8.6%, for a total of $320,000. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that's approved. Item number 6. All right, thank you. Item number 7, 2026 power cost adjustment, abbreviated PCA, electrical rates effective April 1, 2026. And with that introduction, I'd call on Clerk Treasurer Strecker.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Attached to your agenda was the PCA application that was filed in the last day of February. We do this every year. It's basically, we look at the past year and the costs of power and then forecast the next year for our cost of power, put it into a spreadsheet, and then we come up with what our power factor is for the year. It would be effective April 1st, which is the date that Mean increases their rates to us for our wholesale power, so it coincides with that date. This year, we will be seeing an increase in our electric rate. As you can see from the application, if you look at page 4 of the application, the commodity costs have went up. Means wholesale rate is going up. The energy charge is going up 7%. And the mean fixed recovery charge, which is basically the demand charge of the bill, is going down slightly, 1.85%. So the power cost adjustment comes out to about a 4.2% increase for residents. Of course, there's a winter and summer rate. The winter rate will be going up closer to 5%, and then the summer rate is up about 4%. So that's how it came out this year, and I'd be glad to answer any questions on the power cost adjustment or any of the other questions you might have on this. We will, waiting for a date to come before the Public Service Commission. Usually it's around the end of March, so we did already answer one set of questions for them. So staff has looked at the application, and I believe we should be getting a date pretty soon.
We just haven't been notified of the hearing date.
Yeah, that's correct.
And what this is essentially is, it's costing us more to purchase, the city, to purchase its
Correct.
electricity from Mean, right? And so it, by definition, goes up to the user because we're paying more for the electricity.
It's basically kind of like a direct pass-through. If our rates go up for the power we purchase to distribute to the customer, then that customer rate goes up too. So the last 2 years, we've seen increases. I think that's just the way the industry's going right now. And with the drought, the WAPA, I worry about what our WAPA is going to go up next year, so it's going to be interesting.
And for those listening, WAPA, the electricity generated from that is from
Hydropower.
hydropower.
Yeah,
That's why the concern, perhaps, right?
yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Matt,
Councilman
the
Victor.
avoided cost rate is the rate, or the price per kilowatt for those that have solar panels, correct? The rate at which we buy their excess power they produce?
That's correct. And that is figured at the same time we do the power cost adjustment, so it's all filed in one filing.
And to your memory, Lynette, this is the third year in a row where we've increased.
I think it's just the second year.
Second year.
There was one year, I believe, since
did go
since our
down.
time on, it did go down, yeah.
Okay, that's right.
Slightly.
Slightly, not much.
I forgot about that. I should remember that. That's such an unusual, for anything to go down. All right. Gentlemen, further questions for Lynette? Seeing none, in item number 7, I would entertain a motion to approve the 2026 power cost adjustment as set forth.
I would make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
I have a motion from Councilman Victrin, I'm sorry, Shane, in item number 7 to approve the 2026 power cost adjustment as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Warren. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. Item number 7, all those in favor of approving the 2026 power cost adjustment set forth in item 7 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that power cost adjustment in item 7 is approved. Next item on our agenda is financial report as of December 31, 25. And again, I'd call on Clerk Treasurer Lynette Strecker.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I do apologize, I did not get this downloaded to put up on the screen today, so I hope you can follow along with me from your agenda packet. I was a little preoccupied with the auditor being here and everything else. I forgot to put it on a thumb drive. So we'll go ahead and get started with our cash balance report as of December 31st, 2025. We have restricted funds. These funds are designated for a certain purpose and are not to be used as our operating funds. So we have restricted funds as outlined here of $2.69 million. And that went down about $354,000 from last year, or actually 6 months ago at 6/30/2025. Our unrestricted funds, we have two classifications of certificate of deposits and investments. So our investments actually went up this year, or this 6 months, and they're at $9,007,517. They went up about $171,000. Our checking and savings accounts, these are basically our operating accounts. They came in at $8.1 million, down $152,000 from 6 months ago. So our total cash and investments are at $17 million. And then our total restricted and cash on hand is $19.8 million, and that's down $336,000 from 6 months ago. The weighted average rate for all of our investments in cash are at 2.56. If you look at accounts receivable, we look at our past due accounts, our utility billing, and accounts receivable. Amounts past due at 12/31/25 were $42,824. 6 months ago, they were $13,000. A year ago, they were at $44,000. So it seems to be consistent with this time of the year. Number of discontinuations for non-payment as of 12/31/25, we had 12 accounts, and we do not turn off in the December period. So this period, we had $1,577 worth of accounts turned off. 6 months ago, it was $3,800. So it did go down slightly, but very comparable to last year. Amount at collections, $76,957. 6 months ago, it was $70,000. And then a year ago, it was at $74,000. And then the amount turned over to the city attorney is at $4,611. And 6 months ago, it was at $4,164. Equipment scheduled for delivery. We were due to get a new bucket truck. It was ordered in April of 2023. We are still waiting on that. The contract said it was to be delivered November 30th. We still do not have it. There seem to be some issues with, I believe, some of the electrical between the chassis and the bucket, but Scott was hopefully to get a report and get back to us on that as soon as he could. If we don't get it soon, we may have to have the attorney look into seeing if we can get a letter or something to see if we can get something moving. But
So they're 4 months overdue.
right, but it's been a long wait, you know.
Almost 3 years.
Yeah, it's almost 3 years, so. So anyway, we'll move on to the next page, the consolidated cash position. So I take the cash from the previous page and I start out with that. And then I add the unearned revenue, the revenue I haven't earned in this budget yet. So if I add the taxes I have not earned, grants and loans, other income, user fees, I have total unearned revenue of 29.5 million. I add that to my current cash, so that leaves me with total cash and unearned revenue of about 49 million. And then I look at my expenditures. What have I expended so far this year, and what do I have left to expend? So I've calculated those, and you can kind of see the major projects there, operations and maintenance, debt obligations. And those total 33,535,000. So if I take the cash that I have minus the appropriations I have left to spend, I come up with 15.7 million, which is unappropriated. But I do have to take off that restricted cash because that is not cash to be used for operating. So that's 13.1 million is what we have in cash reserve, which means it's unappropriated. Cash reserve balance history, last year, 12/31/24, it was at 10 million. So it's up slightly. And then the year before that, it was at 9.6 million.
And Lynette, with cash, it's important to have cash reserve, and that's generally like 3 months of operating expenses, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay, in
If
case
you remember
something
during
really goes
budget, I
south.
try to calculate and make sure we've got enough in cash reserve. I do believe that the reason it is a little bit higher is at the end of the budget year, I have to estimate what the cash is going to be. And so if you remember from the last report, my estimate was low, so the cash ended up being higher than what I thought it was going to be. So I think that's part of the difference there, and that was probably about 1.5 million of that. So.
Okay.
All right, so let's look at how we're doing compared to budget. If you go to the next page, if you look at the general fund budget, 50% of the budget has been expended or elapsed as of December 31st. So let's look at our taxes. Total taxes are at 44.5%. I have not picked up the property and vehicle tax at the county. I will be doing that shortly. That is the main reason that's not quite at 50. But if you look at sales and optional sales tax, they're right on target at 51%. So I always like to look at that to see, that's one of our major components of our budget. Licenses and permits, we're at 53.8 or 43.89. Mineral royalties are at 30.72. Total charges for services, we're at 50.75. Police fines and other revenues, we're at 51.42. Telephone franchises and other utility revenues, we're at 51.9 or 50.96. So total operating general fund, we've spent at 46.8, or we've collected 46.83%, and that should be around 50%. So I separated out all of the grants and special projects, capital grants and loans. Those are an operating revenue. So if you look at that, we're at 54.9%. The state and federal loans and grants, that is our East D project for the street portion. So that project is underway there, and you can see that as of December 31st, we had spent about 58% of that. And the other part is community grant and police department grants. Police department grants were at 35.45%. So overall, for the total general fund revenue, we were at 48.06% compared to budget. So it's real close to 50. So it's a pretty good number to be at. So the expenditures, they also should be at around 50%, hopefully not over 50% for expenditures. You can look down the line there at all the departments. If you look at all of the general fund departments, and these are, again, non-operating, I took out the capital and equipment. If you look at operating, we're at 47% spent for the year, so we are under that 50%. That's good. The capital construction projects, those are all the projects we have going on and the funding that we have available for those. And those are at 40.09%. So the grand total expenditures are at 45% for the general fund. Now, on the next page, we can look at the enterprise funds. We'll start out with the water fund. The water fund has collected 54.58% of the revenue for the year, which is good. And the expenditures for power and pump, metering and distribution were at 46.25%. The sewer fund has collected 51% of what the budget had projected, and the sewer expenditures are at 43.78%. The electric fund revenue, we've collected 52.62%. And then the expenditures for purchasing, metering, wholesale power, and distribution are at 44.1%. And again, I did take out the capital and equipment, and you'll see those below. Sanitation revenue, we've collected 48.9%, so not quite our 50. And we spent 47.69% of our expenditures. Airport revenue, we're at 44.79 in revenue collections, and then our expenditures are at 49.65. Golf revenue, 45.49%, and then their expenditures are at 51.7, a little bit over. Swimming pool revenues at 32%. We did have a rough year last year. So you can see there in the revenue that we didn't quite hit 50%. Hopefully we can make up for that in the first few months of this year. Their expenditures were at 39.26%. The ambulance revenue is doing great. They've been very busy, 64% of what I had budgeted there. And their expenditures are at 45.93. Cemetery revenue is at 43%. That one's hard to predict. Cemetery expenditures are at 44. So the next page looks at the projects going on, and as you can see, by the several $1 million in the projects accounts, we've been spending a lot of money in the city. So we're going to have a big audit next year. But the next page kind of shows you the final and how our cash comes out. So these are not accrued accrual balance. These are cash. So it's before depreciation, before transfers. It's basically what I took in and what I spent. So our net revenue in the general fund is a little bit negative at $158,000. Our water fund was at a positive $157,000. Our sewer fund was at a negative $624,000. And just to explain that a little bit, we have a big CDBG project going on there. And so with the CDBG projects, we have to spend the money and then we get reimbursed. Most of my other grants, I get the invoice and I wait for the reimbursement before I pay it. It's just, but with the CDBG projects, I have to spend it and send them a canceled check. So they had some funding issues, and I was waiting for 3 pay apps, and I had to upfront those costs. So that's why that's so much negative there. So that is all straightened out now. So that should look much better at the end of the year. The electric funds at $577,000. The sanitation funds at $85,000. The airport was at a negative 147, which seems to be, 23 was a negative 140, so it's not too out of line. And the golf fund was at a negative 279,000. Swimming pool at a negative 76. Ambulance is positive at 64,000. And then the cemetery's at a negative 108, pretty consistent with last year. So if you look at all of the funds in the city, we actually spent 509,000 more than we collected. So we are at a negative $509,499. So that is where we're at the end of December. Be glad to answer any questions.
On that sewer project, that was for the lining that we
Correct.
did.
It went very quickly. I had several pay apps within a couple months. And they only process them once a month. And then they had issues with the federal shutdown and some other issues. So I had to transfer some cash for a little while.
The expectation is that this will probably come back with in line.
Yes,
Once the
yes, it
issues
will
are taken
be.
care of.
It already has pretty much all kind of came in now, so.
Well, thank you, Lynette, and I appreciate that explanation, and you're preparing that financial report for us. Gentlemen, do you have any questions for Lynette? All right. Thank you, Lynette, again. Item number 8, the financial report as of December 31 of 2025. I would entertain a motion to accept that financial report.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to accept the financial report as of December 31st of '25.
All right. I have a motion from Councilman Deal to accept the financial report as of December 31 of 2025. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion? All right, item number 8, all those in favor of accepting the financial report as of December 31 of 2025 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that financial report in item 8 is accepted. All right, next item on the agenda is approval of the bills from March 4, 26 to March 17 of 26. And I would again call on Mrs. Strecker.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So attached to your agenda was a list of bills, and then I handed out an additional set tonight. Be glad to answer any questions you may have on those.
I see we paid for the new pool boiler. Is that installed, Mr. Estes?
Oh, we've been waiting on the electrician to show up to hook it up.
Mr. Mayor, before we get to a motion to approve the bills, I would like to request that the invoice for Z and W be pulled and allowed to be considered separately so that I may abstain.
Do that on the second set.
Second set, last entry.
All right. If there aren't any further questions for Mrs. Strecker on approval of the bills, I would entertain a motion to pull Z and W mill bill on the second set, and entertain a motion to approve the rest of them.
I would make a motion to accept the bills as presented, pay all of them, but accept the one for Z and W Mill. We can vote on that separately.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Kelly. I have a motion to approve all the bills with the exception of the Z and W mill bill. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Warren. So, I have a motion and a second to approve all the bills except the Z and W mill bill. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the bills with the exception of the Z and W mill bill, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, those bills are approved with the exception of the Z and W mill bill. And that is a bill that is on item, the Z and W mill bill is on the second set, last page. I would entertain a motion to approve the Z and W mill bill.
Mr. Mayor, I would make motion to approve the Z and W mill bill and recognize that Councilman Victorin is abstaining.
All right, I have a motion from Councilman Deal to approve the Z and W mill bill with the recognition that Councilman Victorin is abstaining from that vote. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Warren. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote on that motion. All those in favor of approval of the Z and W mill bill with Councilman Victorin abstaining, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that Z and W mill bill is approved. Thank you. We are now on public comment, and I see the Fire Chief Luis Correa back there. Could you give us a report, Chief?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So yeah, we've slowed down a bit. It was a very busy February and a pretty good start to March, but we've since slowed down a bit. We did respond to a fire alarm at the High Plains Apartments. They've been having issues with their fire suppression system. Then we were called out to the Baylor facility. It was 2 calls in one day. The earlier call was, I think we were there for about 3 hours. Then the call out at later that night was just for a little bit of a tree was on fire, just, well, smoldering anyways, but the PD was doing some extra patrols, and the last time one of the officers thought that it was all right to do that, it kind of came back and bit him in the butt, so he wasn't going to make that same mistake, so he called us out. We were quickly able to put that out.
That was that big windy Thursday, right?
Yeah, it was. I think most of Highway 85 was shut down that day, and it was a very, very nasty, windy day. We were also called out to Highway 26. One of the boring companies hit a gas line, a service line that I believe was not marked. From the investigation, I believe it was an abandoned line to a residence that was no longer there. Then we were dispatched out to a report of a fire on East D. Turned out it was just somebody burning some yard debris. Had it in a burn barrel, had it with a spark arrestor, did everything except for called to dispatch and let them know that he was burning. Then we got called out for a fire alarm at the Rendezvous Center. I believe the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation was doing a fundraiser or something out there. And, had some burnt food and set off the alarm. And later that same day, we were helped with traffic control for a motor vehicle accident on Highway 85. And then most recently, we were dispatched out to the care center. They had a busted line in their fire suppression system that caused some flooding. As far as that goes, that's what we had for calls since the last meeting. Like I said, it's slowed down quite a bit for us after a very, very busy February. Some of the other things we have were on the last couple weeks of our Gun a Month raffle. I believe there's still some tickets out there, not very many though. If you want to get in on that, get a hold of any of the members of the department. They can hopefully get you a ticket. And then with that being said, I would like to thank the mayor and council for allowing me to be fire chief. Next council meeting, we'll be asking that you guys appoint Jeff Schick as the new fire chief. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve the residents of the city of Torrington and Rural Fire District Number 3.
And we, in turn, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Indeed we do. Do we have anybody assisting with the Moral Fire, Chief?
We do not have anybody currently. I believe Yoder has a couple people, but no, we don't. We don't currently have any of our members out. Hopefully, this year we'll get our trucks out the door and go out on some federal fires.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we are in public comment time. Does anybody out there have a comment? Or a councilman?
I would just like to publicly commend our new department head of the electric department for the fine work and that windy day of getting the electricity up and running again. Thank you, Scott.
Here, here, here. Thank you. All right. If there are no further public comments, we have an executive session as item number 11. I would entertain a motion to leave regular session and enter into executive session.
I would so move, Mr. Mayor.
I have a motion from Councilman Victron to leave regular session and enter into an executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Deal. All those in favor of leaving regular session and entering into executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, we shall move into executive session.